Chapter 19. The Mirror of Galadriel. The sun was setting behind the mountains, and darkness sank deeper in the forest as they continued on. By now the path led into thick undergrowth, where shadows gradually closed in. Night approached among the trees as they walked, and the elves began to light lamps. Suddenly they entered a clearing and found themselves under a pale evening sky dappled with a few early stars. Ahead was a wide expanse bare of trees, curving into a great ring and stretching both ways. Behind it was a deep moat swallowed in darkness, yet the grass above its bank shone green, as though recalling the light of long-ago sun. On the far bank rose a living wall of trees surrounding a hill covered with malorns taller than any they had yet seen. Their great trunks soared upward like living towers. Their tiers of branches, with vast numbers of shifting leaves, glowed with shades of green, gold, and silver. Haldir turned to the fellowship. "Welcome to Caras Galadon," he said. "This is the city of the Galadrim, where Lord Celeborn and Lady Galadriel dwell in Lothlórien. But we cannot enter it from here, for its gate does not face north. We must circle southward, and that path is not short, for this city is great." A white paved way ran along the outer edge of the moat. They walked westward upon it. The city rose like a green screen to their left, and as night deepened, more lights sprang forth, until the hill glimmered with 1,000 stars. Eventually, they came to a white bridge, and crossing it, they beheld the great gates of the city. They faced southwest, set in the final arc of the walls that met at this point. The gates were tall and firm, hung with lamps. Haldir knocked and spoke, and the gates opened silently. But Frodo saw no signs of guards. The travellers stepped within, and the gates closed behind them. They passed into a narrow way between the walls, hurrying through to enter the tree city. They could see no one, and hear no footsteps on the path, but many sounds whispered around them and above. Off at some distance they heard the drip of water from high on the hill, like rain upon leaves. They passed many paths and stairs until they ascended to higher ground, where before them lay a wide meadow with a sparkling fountain. It was lit by silver lamps swinging from tree branches, and it poured into a silver basin that overflowed into a white stream. To the south of the meadow stood a mighty tree surpassing all others, its smooth, shining trunk like strands of grey silk, rising until the low boughs spread into a clearing under a thick canopy. Beside it was a gleaming white stair, and at its foot sat 3 elves. They rose when the travellers approached, and Frodo saw them tall, clad in grey armour, long cloaks thrown over their shoulders. "Celeborn and Galadriel dwell here," said Haldir. "They desire that you climb and speak with them." An elf guard blew a small trumpet, and from afar it was answered thrice. "I will go first," said Haldir. "Let Frodo follow and Legolas accompany him. The others shall follow as they can. This climb will be long for those unfamiliar with such stairs, but you may rest on the way." Then Frodo slowly climbed through many flets, some to one side, some to the other, some built upon the tree trunk, the ladder passing through. At the high level he entered a large talon that looked like a great ship. A house was built upon it, so large it seemed like a human hall. He followed behind Haldir and entered a room shaped oval within the trunk of a great malorn, with rings of sprouting buds forming a column, its wide crown encircling it. The room glowed with gentle light. Its walls were blue and silver, its ceiling golden. Many elves were seated there. On 2 seats beneath the trunk and draped with living branches sat Celeborn and Galadriel side by side. They stood to greet their visitors, as was elven custom, even when their guests were proud as kings. They were very tall. The lady was no less stately than the lord. Their garb was pure white, her hair deep gold, his silver, long and radiant. yet no sign of age touched them, save the lines at their eyes, sparkling like starlight, yet deep as memory's falls. Haldir led Frodo forward, and the Lord addressed him in his tongue. The Lady Galadriel said nothing at first, but gazed intently at Frodo's face. "Sit by my seat, Frodo of the Shire," said Celeborn. "When all are come, we will speak together." He politely greeted each member of the fellowship by name as they entered. "Welcome, Aragorn, son of Arathorn," he said. "It has been 38 years in the outer world since you first came to this land, and many months have weighed upon you, yet your end draws near, be it for good or ill. Lay down your burden here a while. Welcome, son of Thranduil. My folk greet you from the north. Welcome, Gimli, son of Glóin. Long has it been since a child of Durin has trod in Caras Galadon. Yet today we break custom. Perhaps it is a sign that though the world darkens, better days may yet come, and friendship between our folk may be renewed." Gimli bowed deeply. When all the guests were seated before his throne, the Lord looked about them. "Here are 8 of you," he said. 9 set out, so the reports say. But perhaps changes have come in the plan which we have not heard. Elrond is far away, and darkness lies between us, and over years the shadow has grown." "No, there has been no change in the original purpose," said Lady Galadriel, speaking for the first time. Her voice was clear and musical, yet deeper than an ordinary woman's. "Gandalf the Grey walked with your fellowship, yet did not cross the border of this land. Tell us that he is here, for I would gladly speak to him again. But I cannot see him from afar, unless he enters the borders of Lórien. A grey veil covers him, the path beneath his feet, and his mind hidden from me." "Alas," said Aragorn, "Gandalf the Grey has fallen into shadow. He remained in Moria and could not escape." The elves cried out in grief and horror at the news. "Such terrible tidings," said Celeborn. "The worst words said here in many years of sorrow." He turned to Haldir. "Why did you not tell me earlier?" he asked in elven tongue. "We did not tell Haldir all that we did, or our purpose," said Legolas. "At first we were weary, and danger pressed close behind, and later we forgot our grief for a while as we entered the glorious paths of Lórien. Yet our sorrow is great, and our loss beyond measure," said Frodo. "Gandalf was our guide, and he led us through Moria. When our flight seemed despairing, he saved us, and then fell." "Tell us the whole tale," said Celeborn. Then Aragorn told all that had happened on the road over Caradhras, and of the days that followed, and he spoke of Balin and his book, and of the battle in the chamber of Mazarbul, and of the fire, and the narrow bridge, and the coming of the terror. It seemed to me that it was a demon of the ancient world. "I had never seen the like of it before," said Aragorn. "It was both shadow and red flame, strong and terrible." "It was a Balrog of Morgoth," said Legolas, "the most dreadful of all the scourges of the elves, save only one that now sits in the dark tower. Truly I beheld upon that bridge what so often haunts my darkest dreams. I have looked upon the bane of Durin," murmured Gimli, and terror flickered in his eyes. "Alas," said Celeborn, "long have we feared that some evil thing lay sleeping beneath Caradhras. But had I known that the dwarves had stirred that creature again in Moria, I would have forbidden you to pass the northern borders, you and all that journeyed with you. And if this be true, then Gandalf has indeed gone from the height of wisdom to the depth of folly, venturing needlessly into the net of Moria." "You speak too hastily," said Galadriel gravely. "There is nothing that Gandalf has ever done in his life that was without purpose. Those who follow him cannot know his mind, nor fully recount his intent. Yet his acts may still serve as a guide, and none of his companions should bear blame. Do not repent of welcoming this dwarf. For if our people were exiled from Lothlórien, would any of the Galadrim, even Celeborn the Wise, pass by the ancient homes of his kin without desiring to look upon them again, though they had become dens of dragons? The waters of Khaled Zaram are dark, the springs of Kibil-Nala are cold, and the pillared halls of Khazad-dûm were fair in the elder days before the great kings fell beneath the stone. She looked upon Gimli, who sat staring sadly, and she smiled. And the dwarf, hearing the names of his ancient tongue spoken again, looked up, and his eyes met hers, and he felt as though he looked deep into the heart of an enemy, and there saw love and understanding. Wonder came upon his face, and then he rose clumsily and bowed in the manner of his people. Yet the living land of Lórien is fairer still, he said, and Lady Galadriel is above all the jewels that lie beneath the earth. There was a silence. At last Celeborn spoke again. I did not know that your journey had been so perilous, he said. Forgive my hasty words, Gimli, son of Glóin. I spoke while my heart was troubled. I will do all that I can to aid you, each according to his wish and need, and most of all for the small one who bears the burden. We know of your quest, said Galadriel, turning her eyes to Frodo, but we shall speak no more of it here. Yet it may be that your coming to us is not in vain if the purpose of Gandalf is made clear. For the Lord of the Galadrim is accounted the wisest of the elves of Middle-earth, and giver of gifts beyond the power of kings. He has dwelt in the West since the earliest days of the world, and I have been with him so long that I cannot count the years. For ere the fall of Nargothrond or Gondolin, I passed over the mountains, and together we have fought through the long ages of the world. I was the first to summon the White Council, and if my designs had not been hindered, it would have been ruled by Gandalf the Grey, and perhaps many things would have gone otherwise. Yet even now, hope remains. I will give you no counsel, nor tell you to do this or that. For I do not shape or command, nor can I choose between one road and another, but I know what was and what is, and in part what shall yet be. This I will say to you, your quest stands upon the edge of a knife. Stray but a little, and it will fail, to the ruin of all. Yet hope remains while the company is true. Her gaze held them as she spoke, and she looked long and steadily at each of them in turn. None save Legolas and Aragorn could long endure her eyes. Sam quickly blushed and bowed his head. At last the lady released them from her glance and smiled. "Do not let your hearts be troubled," she said. "Tonight you shall sleep in peace." Then they sighed and felt suddenly weary, as though they had been questioned long and searchingly, though no word had been openly spoken. "Come," said Celeborn, "you are worn with sorrow and toil. Even if your quest were not so bound up with our own fate, you should rest a while in this city until you are healed and renewed. Now you shall take your ease, and we will not speak of the road ahead. That eat us." Night the fellowship slept upon the ground, to the hobbits' great content. The elves led them to a pavilion set among the trees near the fountain, and they lay upon soft beds. The elves bade them good night with gentle voices. The travellers talked a little before sleep of the night before when they had slept in the trees, for they had no mind yet to recall days farther past. "Why were you blushing so, Sam?" said Pippin. "You'll waste away if you go on like this. Anyone would think you were guilty of some crime. I hope it was nothing worse than a wicked plan to steal one of my blankets." "I never thought of such a thing," said Sam, too serious for jest. If you want to know, I felt as if I couldn't hide anything, like she was looking right inside me and asking what I would do if she offered me the chance to go back home to the Shire, to a little house all my own with a bit of garden. Funny, said Mary. That's almost exactly what I felt, only, well, I don't think I'll say any more. It seemed that they all had much the same feeling. Each was offered a choice between the dark dread that lay before them and something that he greatly desired, clear before his mind, and to gain it he had only to turn aside, leaving the quest and the war against Sauron to others. I felt it too, said Gimli, but whatever choice was offered to me shall remain my secret. For me it was strange, said Boromir. Maybe it was a test, and she thought to read our thoughts as she would, but I almost think she was urging us, offering what she pretended to have the power to bestow. Needless to say, I refused to listen. The men of Minas Tirith are true to their word. But Boromir did not tell what it was that he thought the lady had offered him. As for Frodo, he said nothing, though Boromir pressed him with questions. She looked at you longest, ring-bearer, he said. Yes, said Frodo, but whatever entered my heart remains there. So be it, said Boromir. Yet I do not feel certain of this elven lady or her purposes. Say no evil of the Lady Galadriel, said Aragorn sternly. You do not know what you say. There is no evil in her or in this land unless a man bring it hither himself. Then let him beware. But tonight I shall sleep without fear for the first time since I left Rivendell. And I could sleep soundly, forgetting my grief for a while, for I am weary in body and in heart. He cast himself down upon his bed and was soon asleep. The others followed quickly, and no sound or dream disturbed their rest. When they awoke, daylight lay bright upon the grass before the pavilion, and the fountain rose and fell glittering in the sun. They stayed in Lothlórien for some time, and they never forgot that sojourn. The sun always shone there, save for one brief rain that passed, leaving all things fresh and fair. The air was cool and fragrant, as if it were spring, yet they felt the deep peace of winter beneath. They did little but eat, drink, and sleep, and wander among the trees, and that was enough. They saw neither the Lord nor the Lady again, and they spoke little with the elves, for few of them knew or would use the tongue of the West. Haldir had bidden them farewell and gone back to his northern fences, where the watch was now redoubled, since tidings of Moria and of the Fellowship had come. Legolas was away among the Galadrim. After the first night he no longer slept with his companions, though he returned often to talk and eat with them. He would take Gimli with him when he went abroad, and the others marvelled much at this change. Now when they sat together they spoke often of Gandalf, and the memory of what each had seen and known of him came more vividly to mind. As the wounds and weariness of their bodies healed, the sorrow of their loss grew keener. They heard the elves singing nearby, and they knew they were making songs of lament for his fall, for they caught his name amid their soft, sorrowful words, though they could not understand the speech. Mithrandir, Mithrandir, sang the elves, O grey pilgrim, for that was what they loved to call him. But when Legolas was with the Fellowship, he would not translate their songs, saying that he could not, and sorrow for him still lay heavy upon his heart, sorrow for tears, not for songs. Frodo was the first to add his own sorrow to their hesitant laments. He had seldom thought of making songs or verses. Even in Rivendell he had listened and not sung, though his memory was full of the words and music of others. But now, as he sat by the fountain of Lórien and heard the elves sing of Gandalf, thoughts shaped themselves into a soft and simple song. Yet when he tried to repeat it to Sam, he could recall only broken fragments, dim and faded, like a handful of withered autumn leaves. The lament for Gandalf. When the sun was grey above the Shire, his feet passed swiftly on the hill. He was gone ere dawn had yet awoken, gone, and spoke no farewell still. From Wilderland to western shore, from northern waste to southern hill, through dragon's lair and hidden door, through forests deep and shadows chill, with dwarf and hobbit, elves and men, and mortal kind and spirits high, with bird in bough and beast in den, in tongues he knew from earth to sky, with sharp-edged sword, with blessed hand, his back bowed under burden's weight, a trumpet blast, a torch aflame, the weary traveller pressed through fate. He sat upon the throne of mind, swift in anger, swift in mirth, an old man in a tattered hat, leaning on a thorn-crowned staff. Alone he stood upon the bridge, unafraid of shadow or of flame. His staff was broken on the stone, his wisdom perished in Khazad-dûm.
"Oh, he'll beat old Mr. Bilbo yet,"
said Sam. "No, I don't think so," said Frodo, "but it's the best I can do." "Aye, Mr. Frodo," said Sam, "and if you mean to add more, I hope you'll say something about his fireworks. Something like this, maybe. Never were there rockets such as these. Blue stars burst into fiery seas, golden showers in splendor rolled, and silver blossoms fell like snow, though still their worth is scarcely told. No, I'll leave that for you, Sam," said Frodo, "or perhaps for old Bilbo, but
I can't say more.
I can hardly bear the thought of bringing him such tidings." One evening, as Frodo and Sam walked together in the dimming twilight, both felt restless. Frodo suddenly sensed the shadow of parting falling upon him. He felt that the time was near when he must leave Lothlórien. "What do you think of the elves now, Sam?" he said. "I asked you that once before, it seems long ago, but you've seen more of them since then." "Indeed I have, Mr. Frodo," said Sam, "and I've found that there are elves and elves. They're all elvish enough, but not quite the same. These here, they aren't wanderers or homeless folk. They seem to belong here, more than hobbits belong to the Shire, if you take my meaning. Whether they made the land or the land made them, I can't say. It's so quiet here it almost hurts. If there's any magic about it, it's deep down where my hands can't reach."
"If you understand me, you can see and feel it everywhere," said Frodo. "Yes," said Sam, "but you never see anyone working it."
"There's none of those flashbangs poor Mr. Gandalf used to make."
"I don't know what to make of the Lord and Lady these days."
"I'm fair bewitched, thinking the lady could do anything she wished if she cared to."
"I'd dearly love to see some elvish magic, Mr. Frodo." "I wouldn't," said Frodo softly.
"I'm content."
"And it's not Gandalf's fireworks I remember, but his bushy eyebrows and his quick temper and his voice." "You're right," said Sam, "and don't think I'm complaining."
"I'd like a bit of magic, as in the old tales, but I never heard tell of a land more beautiful than this. It feels like being at home and at a feast all at once, if you take my meaning."
"And I don't want to leave."
"But at the same time, I'm beginning to think if we've got to go, the sooner we start, the better. As my old gaffer used to say, a job that's never started takes the longest to finish. And I don't suppose the lady's magic or anyone's can do much more for us now. Once we're gone from here, I think we'll miss Gandalf all the more." "I fear you're right."
"Sam," said Frodo, "yet I do hope before we go we may see the Lady of the Elves once again." Even as he spoke,
they saw her as if she had come in answer to their wish. Galadriel, tall and white and wonderfully fair, walking beneath the trees. She said nothing, but beckoned them to come. She turned aside and led them southward down the slopes of Caras Galadon. Passing through a high green hedge, they entered a deep, open garden. No trees grew there, and it lay bare beneath the sky. An evening star was rising, and its white light shone over the western woods. Down the long green hollow the lady went, beside silver streams that flowed from a fountain on the hill. At the bottom stood a basin of silver, wide and shallow, upon a pedestal carved like a branching tree. Beside it was a silver ewer. Galadriel filled the basin to the brim with water from the stream, and breathed upon it, and when the surface was still once more, she spoke. "This is the Mirror of Galadriel," she said. "I have brought you here that you may look into it, if you will." The air was very still. The valley darkened, and the elven lady beside him seemed tall and shadowy. "What shall we look for, and what shall we see?" Frodo asked, half in awe. "I can command the mirror to show many things," she answered, "and I can cause some to behold what they most desire to see. Yet the mirror will also show things unbidden, and these are often stranger and more profitable than what we wish to see. What you will behold, if you let the mirror work freely, I cannot tell, for it shows things that were and things that are, and some things that yet may be. But what they mean, even the wisest cannot always say. Will you look?" Frodo did not answer. "And you?" she said, turning to Sam. "This is what your folk would call magic."
"I think, though I do not understand clearly what they mean."
For they use the same word for the devices of the enemy. Yet this, if you will, is the magic of Galadriel. Did you not say you wished to see elvish magic?
"I did," said Sam, trembling between fear and curiosity.
"I'll have a peep, lady, if you let me. And I shan't grumble if I see a glimpse of home," he murmured to Frodo. "It seems a terrible long while since I left."
"But there you don't only see stars in it, or something I can't rightly make out." "Not altogether so," said the lady, gently with a smile.
"Come, you shall look and see what you may, but do not touch the water." Sam climbed up on the foot of the pedestal and leaned over the basin. The water seemed thick and dark. The stars were mirrored deep within. "Only stars, I think," he said. Then he gasped, for the stars were moving. As if a black veil had been drawn away, the mirror grew grey, and then clear. Sunlight gleamed and leaves stirred in the wind. Before Sam could grasp what he saw, the light faded, and now he thought he saw Frodo, pale-faced, lying asleep beneath a great dark cliff. Then Frodo seemed to be walking on a long road, climbing an endless winding stair. Suddenly Sam found himself staring, hurrying to see something he did not know. Like a dream, the scene vanished and he saw trees again. But now they were farther off, and he saw what was happening. They were not moving in the wind, they were falling, crashing to the ground. "Oh," cried Sam in dismay, "that's something Ted Sandyman oughtn't to be doing. Cutting down trees, that's what it is. Those are the trees behind the mill, shading the path by the water."
"If I could just get hold of Ted, I'd fell him."
But now Sam saw that the old mill was gone, and a great red brick building stood in its place. Many men were working there, and beside it rose a tall chimney, belching black smoke that swirled like a storm cloud across the mirror's surface. "There's devilry afoot in the Shire," he cried. "Elrond knew something when he wanted to send Mr. Merry back home." Then Sam gave a shout and leaped away.
"I can't stay here," he cried wildly. "I must go home."
"They're digging up Bagshot Row, and my poor old dad's walking down the hill with his things on a handcart."
"I must go home."
"You cannot go home alone," said the lady. "You did not wish to leave your master before you looked into the mirror."
"And yet you have seen that evil may be stirring in the Shire. Remember that the mirror shows many things, and not all have yet come to pass."
"Some never come to be, unless those who behold the visions turn aside from their path to prevent them. The mirror is dangerous as a guide." Sam sat on the ground and buried his head in his hands. "I wish I had never come here, and I don't want to see any more of that magic," he said, then lapsed into silence.
After a while he spoke again in weary tones, as though struggling with tears. "No, I will go home by the long road with you, Frodo, or never return." He said it firmly.
"But I hope someday I shall come back. If what I saw becomes truth, then let there be someone to see it with his own eyes." "Do you not wish to see Frodo?" Lady Galadriel said. "You did not wish to look at the elvish magic, and contented yourself with what you already knew. Do you counsel me to look?" Frodo asked. "No," she said. "I advise you not in one way or another.
I am no counselor.
You may learn something."
And whether what you see is fair or dire, it may yet do you good, or it may not. 'Tis perilous to see.
"But I think, Frodo, that you have courage and wisdom enough to risk it." "I will look," Frodo said. He climbed onto the pedestal and leaned over the dark water.
Instantly the mirror became clear, and he saw a dim land.
Mountains appeared faint and shadowy in the distance against a grey sky. A long grey road stretched out of sight. Far off, a figure slowly walked along it, at first a small, vague shape, but as it came closer, it grew clearer. Suddenly Frodo realized that the figure reminded him of Gandalf. He nearly called out the wizard's name, and then he saw that the figure was not clad in grey but in white, a pale white that glowed faintly in the twilight. In its hand was a white staff. The figure's head was bent, so he could not discern his face, and at that moment it turned off the road and vanished from the mirror's view. Doubt gripped Frodo. Was it Gandalf on one of his solitary wanderings, or was it Saruman? The scene shifted. Fleetingly, yet with stark clarity, Frodo saw Bilbo pacing to and fro in his study. The lamp was lit, papers strewn in disarray. Rain pelted the window pane. Then all paused, and in quick succession came scenes he had never before known but recognized at once. The sea. Darkness falling, the sea rising in a storm and roaring. Then the sun, red as blood, sinking into cloud, and the black shape of a ship, masts rent, rising from the west. Then a broad river flowing through a crowded city. Then a white fortress with 7 tall towers. Then a ship with black sails, but now the sky was bright again, and the water rippled in brilliance, and a banner bore a shining white tree in the sunlight.
Smoke curled upward in flame, and war erupted.
Then the sun sank again into red fire, swirling into grey mists. A small ship drifted into the mists, shining bright. It vanished. Frodo sighed and prepared to draw back. But suddenly the mirror darkened, black as though a void had opened in the world of vision, and Frodo was staring into an empty abyss. In that black chasm appeared a single eye, slowly kindling until its light filled nearly the entire mirror. Frodo stood rooted in terror, unable to cry out. The eye was rimmed in flame, but itself cold, golden as a cat's eye, alert and piercing, and a narrow slit in its pupil opened into a void.
A window into nothingness. Then the eye began moving, searching.
And Frodo knew with terrible certainty that he himself was among the things it sought. Yet he also knew it could not see him, at least not now unless he willed it. The ring upon its chain about his neck grew heavy as stone, and his head hung low. The mirror glowed fiercely hot, and vapours swirled from its surface. He slid forward. "Do not touch the water," Lady Galadriel said softly. The vision vanished. Frodo found himself looking at cold, distant stars mirrored in the silver basin. He stumbled back, trembling, and looked to the lady. "I know what you saw in the end," she said, "for it mirrored in my mind. Do not fear, but do not dwell on it, even in song among the trees or by a slender arrow of elven bow, that Lothlórien is safe from its enemy. I tell you, Frodo, though I speak with you now, I yet perceive the mind of the Dark Lord, and sense his intent concerning the elves. And he, too, strives to see me and my thought."
Yet the gates remain closed.
She lifted her shining arms and stretched them eastward in a gesture of refusal and warding. Erendil, evening star, the elves' beloved star, shone bright above them. It cast light upon her figure and laid a pale shadow on the ground. Its rays glinted upon the ring on her finger, shining like a burnished gold surface beneath a sheen of silver light, and a white gem within it sparkled as though an elven star had fallen to her hand. Frodo gazed at that ring in awe. for he suddenly understood what it was. "Yes," she said, reading his thought. "I may not speak of it openly, and Elrond himself must not venture such speech, but it cannot be hidden from the ring-bearer, nor from one whom the eye looks upon. Upon this land, upon my finger, gleams one of the three that remain.
It is Nenya, the ring of adamant, and I am its keeper." He doubts, but he does not yet know. Not yet.
Now do you see why your coming was the turning of a threshold? For if you fail, then our realm will lie open before the enemy. But if you endure, then our power will shrink, and Lothlórien will fade, and the tide of time will sweep it away. We must go west, or fall into slow ruin, lost and forgotten in lonely strongholds. Frodo bowed his head. "What is it that you desire, then?" he asked at last. "That which must come to pass shall come," she answered. "The love the elves bear for their land and their works is deeper than the depths of the sea, and their grief is endless and cannot wholly be assuaged. Yet they would rather lose everything than let Sauron claim them. For you cannot shape Lothlórien's fate, only pursue your quest. But I may wish that, if it might be so, the One Ring had never been made, or might yet be destroyed. Your wish is noble and bold, Lady Galadriel," Frodo said. "I would give you the One Ring, if you would take it." "With me it is too great a burden," Galadriel laughed, all a clear, sudden laughter. "Perhaps Lady Galadriel is very wise," she said, "but she is met here by one equally polite. You have done me honor by resisting my test at our first meeting. You have begun seeing the world with a sharper eye. I will not deny that in my heart I long have asked whether I might command the One Ring myself. For many years I have pondered what to do if ever its power came to me, and here, behold, it lies within my reach. The dark devices long prepared respond in many ways, whether Sauron stands or falls. To take it by force or threat, such a thing would be a folly even in one born of elven kind. For you offer it freely. In the realm of the Dark Lord you would set a queen. And I should not grow dark, but fair and terrible as morning and night, beautiful as the sea, the sun, and mountains' snow,
Terrible as storm and thunder, mightier than Middle-earth itself.
All would bow to me and suffer in my love." She lifted her hand, and from the ring she wore sprang a radiance that lit her alone and cast shadow over all else. She stood before Frodo, seeming larger than any measure, more beautiful and dreadful, worshipful. Then she lowered her hand, the light faded, and she withdrew. A slender, elven woman in white, her voice soft, gentle, and tinged with sorrow. "I have passed the test," she said. "I shall diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel." They stood silent for a time. At last the lady spoke. "Let us return," she said. "In the morning you must depart, for now we have made our choice, and the streams of fate will flow." "I would ask one more thing before we go," said Frodo, "a thing I have long wished to ask Gandalf in Rivendell. I was permitted to bear the One Ring. Why may I not see the others and know the minds of those who bear them?"
You have not tried," she said.
"Only by putting on the ring thrice would you truly know what it hides. Do not attempt it, it will rend you. Gandalf told you that the rings confer power proportionate to the stature of the bearer, yes? Before you may wield such power, you must become far stronger and master your will to influence others. Yet even so, as ring-bearer wearing it, seeing what is concealed, your senses are greatly sharpened. You have perceived my thoughts more clearly than many famed minds. You have glimpsed the eye keeping the 7 and the 9, and have you not seen and recognized the ring on my finger?" She turned to Sam. "No, lady," he said. "To tell you the truth, I wondered what you meant.
"I saw a star above your hand."
But if I may speak, I believe my master was right.
"I wish you to take his ring. You would set things right."
You would make them stop digging up my dear home and driving father from it. You would make those men pay for their foul work." "I will do it," she said, "and that is but the beginning. But alas, it will not end there. We speak no more of that now.
Come!
Chapter 20, Farewell to Lothlórien. That night, the fellowship was once again summoned to the chamber of Celeborn, where the lord and lady greeted them warmly. At last, Celeborn spoke of their departure. "The time has come," he said, "when those who wish to continue the quest must steel their hearts to leave this land. Those who do not wish to go further may remain here for a while. Yet, whether they stay or depart, no peace can be promised them. For now we stand upon the very threshold of peril. Here are those who may wish to wait until the roads of the world reopen, or until we summon them when Lothlórien calls for them one last time. Then they may return to their own lands, or, if they fall in battle, they shall return to the homes of their fathers." There was a moment of silence. "All are resolved to go forward," said Galadriel, gazing into their eyes. "For me," said Boromir, "the road home lies before me, not behind." "That is well," said Celeborn. "But will the whole fellowship go with you to Minas Tirith?" "We have not yet decided our path," Aragorn said. "I do not know what Gandalf intended to do after reaching Lothlórien."
Indeed, I do not think he had a fixed purpose. Perhaps not, said Celeborn.
"But when you leave this land, you can no longer ignore the great river. And as some of you know well, travelers burdened with packs cannot cross it from Lorien to Gondor except by boat."
"Are not all the bridges at Osgiliath broken and all the landings now held by the enemy?"
"Which way will you go?" "The road to Minas Tirith lies on this side, the western shore, but the straight path of the quest is on the eastern bank through the darker lands." "Which shore will you follow?" "If my counsel is worth anything," said Boromir, "it would be to go west and take the road to Minas Tirith. But I am not the leader of the company." The others said nothing, and Aragorn seemed troubled and uncertain. "I see that you have not yet chosen your path," said Celeborn. "I cannot choose for you, but I will help you as I may. Among you are some who can manage boats. Legolas, whose kind know the swift waters of the great river. Boromir of Gondor."
"And Aragorn, the traveller, and one hobbit more,"
cried Merry. "Not all of us look upon boats as wild horses. My people live by the banks of the Brandywine River." "Then so much the better," said Celeborn. "I shall provide the company with boats. They must be small and light, for if you stray far from the water, there will be places where you must carry them. You will go down toward the rapids of San Gebir, and may at last come to the great falls of Rauros, where the river plunges from Nen Hithoil.
"And there new dangers await you."
Yet for a while the boats will ease your journey, but they will not take you to your goal. At the end you must leave both them and the river and turn either west or east." Aragorn thanked Celeborn many times. The gift of the boats gave him much relief, if only because it spared him the need to decide their road for a few more days. The others too felt their spirits rise. Whatever perils might lie ahead, to float down the river on the current of Anduin seemed better than trudging forward with weary backs. Only Sam was doubtful. He still thought boats were as bad as wild horses, and none of the dangers he had escaped had taught him to think better of them. "All will be ready for you and waiting at the haven before noon tomorrow," said Celeborn. "I shall send folk to you in the morning to help you make ready. Now we wish you a night of peace and restful sleep." "Farewell, my friend," said Galadriel. "Sleep in peace. Let not your hearts be troubled tonight by thoughts of the road ahead. It may be that the paths each of you must tread lie already beneath your feet, though you cannot yet see them. Farewell." The fellowship departed and returned to their pavilion. Legolas went with them, for it was their last night in Lothlórien, and despite Galadriel's words, they held counsel together. For a long time they discussed what they should do, and what might best serve their purpose with the ring, but no decision was reached. Most clearly wished to go first to Minas Tirith, to be free for a while from the shadow of the enemy. They were willing to follow a captain across the river and into Mordor's darkness, But Frodo said nothing, and Aragorn pondered deeply. His own plan while Gandalf yet lived had been to go with Boromir and aid Gondor with his sword, for he believed that the message of the dreams was a summons, and that the hour had come when the heir of Elendil should arise and strike Sauron for victory. But in Moria, Gandalf's burden had fallen upon him, and he knew that now he could not forsake the ring if in the end Frodo refused to go with Boromir. What could he, or any of the company, do for Frodo, save to go with him into the darkness?
"I shall go to Minas Tirith, even if I must go alone, for that is my duty," said Boromir.
After a pause, he sat down, his eyes fixed on Frodo, as though trying to read the halfling's thoughts. At last he spoke again, softly, as if to himself. "If your purpose is only to destroy the ring," he said, "then strength and weapons avail little, and the men of Minas Tirith can offer you no help. But if you wish to overthrow the power of the Dark Lord, it is madness to go into his land unarmed, and folly to throw away—" He stopped suddenly as though realizing he had spoken his thoughts aloud. "To throw away one's life, I mean," he finished quickly. "It is a choice between defending a strong realm and walking openly into the very hands of death."
"At least that is how it seems to me." Frodo caught something strange in Boromir's glance and looked at him closely.
It was clear that Boromir's thoughts went beyond his final words.
Madness to throw away what?
The Ring of Power? He had spoken something like that at the council, yet afterward had agreed to Elrond's wisdom. Frodo turned to Aragorn, but he seemed deep in thought and gave no sign of listening to Boromir's speech, and so their discussion ended. Merry and Pippin had fallen asleep, and Sam was nodding. The night grew late. In the morning, as they began to pack their few belongings, some elves who spoke their tongue came to them, bringing many gifts, food and garments for the journey. The food was mostly in the form of thin cakes, baked lightly on the outside, with a golden colour within. Gimli took one and eyed it suspiciously. "Cram!" he muttered, breaking off a crisp piece and chewing it. His expression quickly changed, and he ate the whole cake with great pleasure. "No more, no more," laughed the elves. "You have eaten enough for a day's march already." "I thought it was cram, like the kind the men of Dale make when they travel in the wild," said the dwarf. "It is that," they answered. "But we call it lembas or waybread, and it is more nourishing than any food made by men."
"And far more pleasant than cram." "Indeed it is," said Gimli. "Why should it be better than the honey cakes of the Beornings?"
"And that is high praise, for the Beornings are the best bakers I know. But they are not much inclined to give their cakes to travellers these days. You are good hosts." "Be that as it may, we wish you to keep it," they said. "Eat little at a time and only when need presses, for these things are for your use when all else fails. The cakes will keep sweet for many days, if they are unbroken and wrapped as we have brought them. One will keep a man on his feet for a long day of labour, even if he be one of the tall men of Minas Tirith." Then the elves unwrapped their bundles and brought forth to each of the company the garments they had prepared. To every member they gave a cloak and hood shaped to fit, and made of the light yet warm silk woven by Galadriel herself. It was hard to say what colour they were. Grey they seemed, with the hue of twilight under the trees. Yet as they moved or were brought into the light, they shone sometimes green as leaves at dusk, and sometimes brown as fallow fields by night, and at times silver as water under the stars. Each cloak was fastened at the neck with a brooch shaped like a green leaf veined with silver. "Are these magic cloaks?" asked Pippin, looking at them in wonder. "I do not know what you mean," the leader of the elves answered. "They are fair garments, and the web, light yet strong, is an elvish weave. They are the cloaks of the elves, if that is what you mean. Leaf and branch, water and stone, they have the hue and beauty of all things we love here in Lórien at twilight. For we put the thought of all that we love into all that we make. They are garments, not armor, and they will not turn shaft or blade. But they should be a help to you. They are light to wear, and warm or cool as one wishes. You will find them a great aid in keeping out of the sight of unfriendly eyes, whether you walk among stones or trees. You have indeed received a gift of great worth. For Lady Galadriel herself and her maidens wove these things, and never before have we given such garments to strangers. After breakfast, the company took their leave of the green lawn beside the fountain. Their hearts were heavy, for it was a fair land, and it had become like home to them, though they had not counted the days, nor heeded the passing of nights. As they stood for a moment looking at the clear water in the sunlight, Haldir came walking towards them across the grass. Frodo was glad to see him. "I have returned from the northern fence," said the elf, "and am now sent to be your guide once more. The Dimrill Dale is veiled in vapour and cloud, and the mountains are troubled. There are noises in the deep. If any of you had thought of returning northwards, you would not be able to go that way now, but come. Your road now lies southward." As they passed through Caras Galadon, the green ways were empty, but the trees above were full of rustling. The travellers themselves were silent. At last, Haldir led them down the southern slopes of the hill, and they came again to the great gates hung with lamps, and so to the white bridge. There they passed out and left the city of the elves behind. Turning from the paved road, they took a path that ran down through a land of flowering malon trees, and then through winding tracks among dim grey woods that led them ever downwards, south and eastward, towards the river banks. After about 10 miles they came near noon to a high green wall. Passing through a gap, they suddenly found themselves before a wide expanse of grass. Golden Eleanor flowers gleamed in the sunlight, and the lawn ran out to a narrow tongue of land lying between the shining streams. On their right and westward flowed the Silverlode, sparkling and bright. On their left and eastward rolled the great river, deep and dark. The far shore was still fringed with trees that marched southward far away, but all the banks were bare and wild. No malon lifted its golden bough beyond the land of Lothlórien. Upon the bank of the Silverlode, some way up from the point where the streams met, stood a hithe of white wood. Beside it were moored many boats and barges. Some were brightly painted and shone with hues of gold, silver, and green, but most were grey or white. 3 small grey boats lay ready for the travellers, and elves were loading them with goods. They were also laying beside each boat 3 coils of rope. The elves themselves were clad in grey, like their cloaks, yet shimmered in the light. "What are these?"
asked Sam, picking up one of the coils lying on the grass. "Ropes, of course," answered an elf from the boats.
"Never travel far without a rope, and these are long and strong, yet light. They may prove useful in many ways." "You needn't tell me that," said Sam. "I came all this way without one, and I've been worried about it."
"But I don't know what these are made of, for they don't look like any rope I've ever seen before." "They are made of hithlane," said the elf, "but there is no time now to instruct you in its making."
"If you return to us someday, we might teach you more. For now you must be content with our gift. It may serve you well. Come," said Haldir. "All is ready.
"Get into the boats."
But first, farewell." "Listen carefully," said the other elves. "These boats are light-built, and they are the work of our people. They will not sink, though they may be overturned, but they are wayward if mishandled. It would be well for you to learn the art of entering and leaving them at the quay before you set out downstream." So the company was arranged: Aragorn, Frodo, and Sam in one boat, Boromir, Merry, and Pippin in another, Legolas and Gimli in the third, with most of the goods. The boats were steered with short-handled paddles, broad and leaf-shaped. When all was ready, Aragorn led them to test the stream of the Silverlode. The current was strong, and they moved slowly. Sam sat low, holding the gunwale and looking back longingly at the shore. Sunlight flashed from the water and mirrored in his eyes. As they passed under the green fringe of the land, the trees leaned over the riverbank. Here and there golden leaves fell and floated on the rippling surface. The air was bright and still, and all about was silence, save for the distant song of a lark. Then they turned southward, and as they floated down with the swift current, they saw a great swan. Its white breast glistened and its curved neck arched proudly. Its beak shone like burnished gold, and its eyes were black and bright as jet set in yellow stones. Its vast wings were half lifted. A music came down the river as it drew near, and suddenly they saw that it was a boat wrought and carved by elvish craft to look like a bird. 2 elves clad in white rowed it with black paddles. Amidship sat Celeborn, and behind him stood Galadriel, tall and white. Upon her hair was a circlet of gold, and in her hand a harp, and she sang. Her voice was clear and sad, rising through the cool air. I sing of leaves, of golden leaves, of golden leaves that grew.
I sing of the wind, a wind that came and blew upon the boughs anew.
After the sun, after the moon, and the sea that foamed beneath the sky, Ilmarinen came to the shore, where from gold a tree did rise. Beneath the stars of the night, before evermore, it shone on Eldamar. In Eldamar, beside the walls of Tirion afar. Long ago, golden leaves had grown upon the branches of the years, while tears of the elves fell down beyond the sundering seas. O Lorien, winter has come, a day laid bare with no more leaves to stay. The leaves have fallen to the rivers, and the river sweeps them all away. O Lorien,
long have I lingered here upon this shore, and upon a withered garland one Eleanor flower twined once more. As on my ship I sing of it, what ship shall come for me?
What ship shall once again bear me across the wide and lonely sea? Aragorn halted the boats as the swan ship drew near. The lady ended her song and greeted them. "We have come to bid you our last farewell," she said, "and to speed you on your way with the blessings of our land." "Though you have been our guests," said Celeborn, "you have not yet eaten with us. Therefore we invite you to share one farewell meal with us here upon the flowing stream that shall bear you away from Lorien." The swan moved slowly along the water, and they followed her course. At the far end of Egladil, upon a green lawn, the parting feast was laid. But Frodo ate and drank little. His mind was filled only with the beauty of the lady and the music of her voice. No longer did she seem perilous or awe-inspiring, nor radiant with hidden power. To him she appeared remote yet present, like the elves of later days, a living vision of something long past and fading in the flowing stream of time. When they had finished eating, Celeborn stood upon the grass and spoke again of their journey. He raised his hand and pointed southward toward the wood beyond the tongue of land. "When you pass down the river," he said, "you will find the trees growing thinner, and you will come into a barren country. There the river flows into a rocky gorge between high moorlands, until at last, after many miles, it leads to the tall isle of Tindrock, which we call Tol Brandir. There it divides and falls over the steep banks of the island in a great roaring fall that runs to Nindalf, which in your tongue is called Wetwang, a wide fenland where the river becomes crooked and branches out. From the west, the Entwash comes down through many mouths from the forest of Fangorn. On that side, beside the great river, lies Rohan. Beyond, upon the further bank, rise the dreary hills of Emin Muil. There blows a wind from the east, for that land looks toward the dead marshes and the desolate plain of Noman, leading to Cirith Gorgor and the black gates of Mordor. Boromir and any who go with him seeking Minas Tirith must leave the great river above Rauros and cross the Entwash before it reaches the fens. But they should not stray far from the river, nor venture into Fangorn. It is a strange land, little known, yet surely Boromir and Aragorn need no warning from me. In truth, we have heard of Fangorn in Minas Tirith, said Boromir. Yet to us it is but an old tale, such as we tell to our children. To us, all that lies north of Rohan is distant and strange, and few would care to wander there. Fangorn the ancient stands upon our borders, yet few now have gone thither to prove or to deny the legends of old. For myself, I have been in Rohan for a time, but I have never crossed it northward. When I was sent as a messenger, I passed through the gap between the shields of the White Mountains, crossed the Isen and the Grey Flood into the Northlands. It was a long and weary road, near 400 miles, and I was many months upon it, for I lost my horse at Tharbad when fording the Grey Flood. After such a journey, and after this road we have now taken with the Fellowship, I doubt not I shall find my way through Rohan, and Fangorn too, if need be. Then I need say no more, said Celeborn. Yet do not scorn the old tales handed down from years long past, for strange things recorded in them may prove of worth to one who is wise. Now Galadriel rose from the grass. She took a cup from one of her maidens, filled it with clear mead, and handed it to Celeborn. It is time to drink the cup of farewell, she said.
Drink, Lord of the Galadrim,
and let us speak no more of sorrow, for though night must follow noon, our afternoon now fades into evening. Then she gave the cup to each of the Fellowship in turn, bidding them drink and farewell. But when all had drunk, she bade them sit again upon the grass, and chairs were brought for her and Celeborn. Her maidens stood silent beside her, and she looked upon her guests. At last she spoke once more. "We have drunk the cup of parting," she said, "and the shadows will fall between us. Yet before you depart, I have brought in my boat gifts that the Lord and Lady of the Galadrim now bestow upon you, as tokens of Lothlórien." Then she called each by name. "This is the gift of Celeborn and Galadriel to the leader of the Fellowship," she said to Aragorn, and she gave him a sheath made to fit his sword. It was overlaid with tracery of flowers and leaves of silver and gold, and upon it were set in elven runes the name Andúril and the lineage of the sword. "The blade that is drawn from this sheath shall not be stained or broken, even in defeat," she said. "But is there aught else you would ask of us at this parting? For the shadows lie long between us, and it may be that we shall not meet again, unless it be upon a road from which none return." And Aragorn answered, "Lady, you know all my desires, and you have kept for me the only treasure I long for. But it is not yours to give me, even if you would, and I shall have it only when I have passed through the deep shadows. Yet this may ease your heart," said Galadriel, "for it was ever in my thought to give it to you, should you pass through this land." Then she drew from her robe a great green stone, set in a silver brooch shaped like an eagle with wings outspread, and as she held it up, it glittered like sunlight through spring leaves. "I gave this stone to Celebrian, my daughter," she said, and she left it to her children. "Now it shall be yours as a token of hope. In this hour take the name long foretold for you, Elisar, the elf stone of the house of Elendel." Then Aragorn took the stone and clasped the brooch upon his breast, and those who looked on him were amazed, for they had not before perceived how tall and kingly he stood, as if years of toil had fallen from his shoulders. "I thank you for the gift you bring me."
"Lady of Lórien," he said, "source of Celebrian and of Arwen Evenstar."
What more can I say to show my gratitude?" The lady bowed her head, and turning to Boromir, she gave him a belt of gold. Then to Merry and Pippin she gave belts of silver, each with a clasp shaped like a golden flower. To Legolas she gave a bow, such as the Galadrim use, longer and stouter than those of Mirkwood, strung with elven hair, and with it a quiver of arrows. "And to you, little gardener, lover of growing things," she said to Sam,
"I have but a small gift." She placed in his hand a small plain box of grey wood,
unadorned save for a silver rune upon the lid. "This is the letter G for Galadriel," she said, "but also for garden in your tongue. In this box is earth from my orchard, blessed with my many prayers. It will not guide your steps nor guard you from peril, but if you keep it and one day return home, it may reward you well. Though you find your land barren and lifeless, few gardens in Middle-earth will bloom like yours if you scatter this earth upon them. Then you may remember Galadriel and look back with longing toward Lothlórien, where only our winter is left to you. For our spring and summer are gone and shall be seen no more upon the world save in memory." Sam blushed to the roots of his hair and stammered awkward words as he took the box, bowing as gracefully as he could.
"And what gift would a dwarf ask from the elves?"
said Galadriel, turning to Gimli. "None, lady," answered Gimli. "It is enough for me to have seen the Lady Galadriel and to have heard her gentle words." "Hear all this, you elves," she laughed softly. "Never let it be said again that dwarves are clumsy and rough. But surely, Gimli, son of Glóin, there is something you desire that I might grant?"
"Speak your wish, I beg you."
"You shall not be the only guest without a gift. Nothing." "Lady Galadriel," said Gimli, bowing low and stammering. "Nothing, unless it might be permitted to ask. No, to name as my desire but a single strand of your hair, which surpasses the gold of the world as the stars surpass the jewels of mine. Yet I do not ask for such a gift."
"But you commanded me to name my desire." The elves stirred and murmured in wonder, and Celeborn gazed at the dwarf in astonishment.
But the lady smiled. "It is said that dwarves are more skilled with their hands than with their tongues," she said. "But that is not true of Gimli, for none have ever brought to me so bold and so courteous a request. And how shall I deny him, since I myself commanded him to speak? Yet tell me, Gimli, son of Glóin, what would you do with such a gift?" "Treasure it, lady," he answered, "in memory of your words to me at our first meeting.
"And should I ever return to my forges?"
It shall be set in an imperishable crystal, as an heirloom of my house, and as a pledge of friendship between mountain and wood until the world's end." Then the lady unbraided one of her long tresses,
and she cut 3 golden hairs and laid them in Gimli's hand. "These words shall go with the gift," she said.
"I do not foretell, for all foretelling is now vain. The shadow lies upon one hand, and on the other only hope. But if hope remains, then this I say to you, Gimli, son of Glóin, your hands shall flow with gold, and yet over the gold no evil shall have dominion. And you—"
"Ring-bearer," she said, turning to Frodo, "to you I speak last."
"But not because you are the least in my thoughts, for I have prepared this for you." She held up a small crystal phial. It glittered as she moved it, and white light sprang from her hand. "In this phial," she said, "is caught the light of Arendil's star, set amid the waters of my fountain. It will shine still brighter when night is about you. May it be a light to you in dark places when all other lights go out. Remember Galadriel and her mirror." Frodo took the phial, and for a moment it shone brightly between them, and he saw again her face, fair and queenly, but no longer terrible. He bowed, but did not speak. Then the lady rose, and Celeborn led them again to the water's edge. Noon lay bright upon the green land of the Tongue, and the water glittered like silver. At last all was ready. The fellowship took their places once more in the boats. With long grey poles, the elves of Lórien pushed them back into the flowing stream, calling farewells softly, and silently the boats glided away. The travellers sat still and silent. Upon a green hill near the edge of the tongue, Galadriel stood alone and motionless. As they passed her, they turned and watched her slowly recede. To them it seemed that Lothlórien was slipping backward, like a shining ship with mast-like trees, sailing down faint channels of forgotten waters, while they themselves sat helpless upon the edge of a grey and leafless world. Even as they watched, the Silverlode flowed out into the current of the great river, and their boats turned southward and began to glide swiftly downstream. The white figure of the lady soon grew small and distant. She shone like a window of glass upon a far hill in the western sun, or like a remote lake seen from a mountain, a glittering crystal fallen upon the land. Then Frodo thought she raised her hand in farewell once more, and a cold wind came down from afar, bearing the sound of her voice. Now she sang in the ancient tongue of the elves beyond the sea, and he did not understand the words. Yet the song was fair, though it brought no comfort to his heart. But the words remained in his memory, and long afterwards he rendered them as well as he could, for it was a language used in the songs and tales of the elves, and little known in Middle-earth. Elvish, Quenya,
Lauriel antar lassis surinan jeni unotime veramar aldaron.
Jeni velinta juldaravani ermio romardi lisse miruvoreva. Andune pella, vardo telumar nuluini jassen tintilari eleni omario airetari lirinen. Simani julmanin quantua. Ansi tintale varda oioloseo vefaniar maria telentari ortane arilie tierundulave lumbulle. Arsinda noriello caita mornie I falmalinna rimbe met, arhisie untupa calacirio miri oiale. Sibangwana, Romelo bangba, Valimar. Namaria, Naihiruvalia Valimar, Naelia Hiruva, Namaria. Translation. Like gold fall the leaves in the wind, yet the years, numberless as the wings of trees. The long years have passed like swift draughts of sweet mead in lofty halls beyond the west, beneath the blue domes of Varda, wherein the stars tremble in her song, holy and queenly. Who now shall fill the cup for me? For now the kindler, Varda, the queen of the stars, from Mount Everwhite, has uplifted her hands like clouds, and all paths are drowned deep in shadow. And out of a grey country darkness lies on the foaming waves between us, and mist veils forever the jewels of Calaciria. Now lost to those from the east is Valimar. Farewell. Maybe thou shalt find Valimar.
Maybe even thou shalt find it.
Farewell.
Varda was the name of the lady whom the elves in exile called Elbereth.
Suddenly the river turned, and the banks rose high on either side, and the light of Lórien was lost, and Frodo never saw again that fair country. The travellers now faced their road once more. The sun was before them, and their eyes were dim, for they were filled with tears. Gimli wept aloud. "I have looked upon the last fair sight that shall ever be," he said to his companion Legolas. "Henceforth I shall call nothing fair, unless it be the gift of the lady." He laid his hand upon his breast. "Tell me, Legolas," he said, "why did I embark on this quest?"
"I know little of the perils that await us."
Elrond was right. None can foresee what we shall meet upon the road.
I feared the danger of shadow and darkness, yet that does not hold me back.
But had I known the peril of light and joy, I might not have come at all. Now I have taken the wound of parting, sharper than any that awaits me before the Dark Lord. Blessings on Gimli, son of Glóin.
"No," said Legolas.
"Blessings on us all, and on all who walk the world in the days to come. For so it is with this world. to find and to lose as those who sit in boats upon the flowing stream. Yet I thank you for your words, Gimli son of Glóin, for though your loss has wounded your free heart, you have made your choice and not forsaken your companions.
At least the memory of Lothlórien shall remain with you clear and fair, and never fade nor grow dim into legend. Maybe so, said Gimli, and I thank you for your words.
Surely they are true, yet the comfort they bring is cold indeed. Memory is not what the heart desires. That is only a mirror, clear as Keledzarum. Or so speaks the heart of Gimli the dwarf. The elves, perhaps, see things otherwise. Indeed, I have heard it said that their memory is more like a moving world than a dream. It is not so with us, but let us speak of it no more.
Watch the boat.
It rides too low with all this gear, and the great river runs swiftly. I have no wish to drown my sorrow in the cold water. He gripped his paddle and steered toward the western bank, following Aragorn's boat ahead, moving out of mid-stream. So the fellowship journeyed on for a long way, borne by the flowing river ever southward. Bare tree trunks drifted along the shores, and the land behind them was soon lost to sight. The wind had fallen, and the river flowed noiselessly.
No bird's voice broke the stillness.
The sun grew pale as day waned, until it shone in the dim sky like a white jewel. Then it sank in the west, and twilight came early, followed by a grey night without stars. Down the dark stream they floated in silence, guiding their boats under the shadows of the western wood. Huge trees loomed like ghosts, their thirsty roots twisting down through mist into the water. The land was bleak and chill. Frodo sat and listened to the faint murmur of the river against the roots and drifting logs, until his head nodded and he fell into uneasy dreams.